Well, after coming off of this holiday season, now we have engaged in the political season. Chicago have 3 seasons, 4 seasons, and I have 2 special guests today, Mr. Washington and Mr. Gabe.
Yes, sir.
I want Mr. Washington has 2 titles, so let's yield to him to start off by telling us who you are, if you don't mind.
Oh, yes. Actually, I have 3 titles. Yes, my name is Roger L. Washington. I'm the next 24th Ward Alderman, pastor, licensed and ordained for 15 years, Chicago police officer for 15 years, and an educator for the last 2 years, whereas I work with K-12 under the umbrella of CPS, where I recruit young men and young women between the ages of 18 and 21, and I help them to get their high school diplomas opposed to their GED.
Wow. And Mr. Gabe, we're going to go to you now.
Yes,
Tell
sir.
us who you are.
My name is Gabe Bukinga. I'm running for Alderman in the 27th Ward. I'm a community activist and a small business lender. The past 10 years, I've worked at a nonprofit that provides small business financing and economic development opportunities to minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and business owners that just can't qualify for traditional conventional financing. We work with those companies to help provide consulting services as well as an SBA loan program to help these companies get in business and expand their operations.
Now, you said the 27th Ward?
Yes, sir. The 27th
Where is the
Ward.
27th Ward? What's the map for 27th?
So we're just coming off a remapping. The general boundaries are, goes as far west as Kedzie, it goes as far north as North Avenue, to Wells Street on the east, and then basically Van Buren on the west side. I'm sorry, on the south side.
Now, the 24th Ward. Tell me the boundaries, and I want to get right into it. Wow, what a life you must
Well, yes, indeed. It's a huge square on the west side of Chicago. Central Park to Cicero, from Cermak all the way north to Van Buren. So it's one of the largest blocks on the west side of Chicago.
What is it like running for office here in the city of Chicago and being a police officer?
Yes.
And a pastor at the same time? Wow, what a burden.
Yeah, the best of both worlds. Being able to deal with society from a spiritual aspect, leading and engaging with the leadership of God. And he's allowed me and trust me to lead with a law enforcement aspect, if you will, to be able to maintain peace and substance while I preach and teach the gospel. So it's a tough job, but with God, everything is possible.
Some tells me if I get stopped by you and I'm in trouble, I'll probably get in the car as a criminal and get out as a Christian.
You better believe it. You better believe it.
Gabe, you lend money to people that's in small businesses. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a community more in need for money and redevelopment in the West Side. What is your vision of the West Side?
That's one of the main reasons I've decided to run. God's really put it on my heart to use some of my experience in the private sector to help folks in need, especially on the West Side. It's heartbreaking to drive on the West Side and see the disparity between the West Side and the East Side. Yet the East Side of the ward has everything from banks. We have Google moving in. You have everything on the East Side, but the West Side is like a ghost town, and it's heartbreaking. I actually moved my campaign office at California, Madison, just because I want that to be the hub. That's going to be the new hub of the 27th Ward. For too long, the current alderman's focused just on the east side, just because, in my opinion, he's not very proactive. He kind of just follows wherever the developers are, because he's in bed with a lot of these developers that have built up the Cabrini and the West Loop. And we've completely neglected the West Side. And it's heartbreaking. There's no jobs on the West Side. It was a food desert for a long, long time until Alderman Fioretti brought the Pete's Fresh Market. And it's heartbreaking, but what's been so encouraging, and the reason why I feel like I've been so well received and loved on, is I have experience in creating jobs and providing businesses with both consulting services and loan programs that open their doors and create jobs. That my background has really, really not only inspired me to get involved and really focus on the West Side, which desperately needs some attention, but it also gives a lot of people hope that I'm not a typical politician or a lifetime politician looking to move office or stay in office. I'm solely doing this because God's put this on my heart, and God wants me to use my background in small business lending and economic development to help the community. My mom's been a reverend and a minister my whole life, and since I was a young kid, my mom had a number of ministries. She had one actually in Cook County Correctional Center for 15 years, and she also started a lot of ministries in homeless shelters, senior facilities centers. And since I was a young kid, my mom just really inspired me and really taught me you have to love everyone. You have to be there for everyone. And just cruising around the ward and seeing that, Chicago's been labeled the tale of two cities, and the 27th Ward, there's probably not a better example of that. You have tremendous wealth and opportunity on the east side, and the west side's completely neglected, and it's heartbreaking.
Wow. Wow. He's just gave me a whole glance of what the west side is like.
Yes.
And I wonder what is not only is your vision, but it must be heart-wrenching to be an African-American male, to be a police officer, and to be a minister and have to, in a sense, walk through what the Bible talks about, Death Valley.
Definitely.
What's that experience like?
It takes faith. I practice solely on faith, and God has led me through a lot. I ran for election in 2011, and I was knocked off the ballot. And in that process, I had received hate mail, negative blogs, notes at work. I had to get into my squad car where I had trash and chicken bones and watermelon rinds and, notes, you don't supposed to run, you're not old enough, just all kind of just racial slurs. And going through a process, whereas it was heartbreaking that I was knocked off the ballot and had to go in as a write-in candidate, but had to go to my profession and to my job and receive all this negative energy that I was getting. But God said, what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. I went out on a solo mission. I didn't have a team at the time. I just had my family, my wife and my two children, and some small believers and people who loved me but didn't want to get involved in the election. So it was just pretty much myself and my family. And I stayed focused. I stayed in the race, and I took the negativity and I took the bashing, but I never gave up. And I want Chicago to know that in 1999, when I became a police officer, it was a lot of negative energy going in, because at the time they didn't expect me to make it and to make it out. But I achieved that goal, and I became an officer, and I stand for just righteousness. And I've been an upstanding citizen and a positive police officer ever since I came on the job, despite the racism, despite of the negative energy, despite of the hate mail, despite of just people putting me down. I overcame it. I stayed in the race, and I kept going. Not being on the ballot, still a Chicago police officer, and here we are in 2014, unchallenged, on the ballot, and still have strong faith in God. And now I have an awesome team that's on the same page as myself, and they can look back at my background and my history and was like, wow, it was hard and tough for you. How did you make it through? And I said, nobody but God. And so now my faith has grown stronger, because I saw what God has brought me through, and now I see where he's taken me to. So I just owe it all to God.
Wow. Gabe, let me ask you a question, because a lot of people will be resentful for you running against Mr. Walter Barnett. A lot of people feel with him having the bagging of Mr. White that he's done a good job. What would you do different?
A lot. I mean, I look at Walter as a machine politician. I don't feel like he's represented the community, and I know that from going. I've talked with over 3,000 voters in the 27th ward. I'm really doing a grassroots campaign because I care. I want to know the issues that people are faced with, so that I could start working on solutions, and so we could all start working on solutions. And folks in all parts of the ward do not think Walter's represented their best interest. I think this is evident with his voting record. I believe he voted 98% of the time over 16 years with Mayor Daley, and
Wow.
he's voted 100% of the time with Rahm Emanuel. I certainly don't think Rahm Emanuel's done a good job the past 4 years. So how anyone could vote 100% of the time with him, I think it's mind-boggling. And to anyone who thinks Walter's done a good job, I would urge that person. And I have to admit, I haven't found a lot of people that have thought that Walter's done a good job. You have the red light cameras, you have the speeding cameras, you have the parking meters that he's voted on twice. And there's a lot of issues in each part of the ward, and each and every time, if there's a controversial issue, I never see Walter siding with the constituents. He's siding with the mayor, or maybe it's Alderman Burke, who's got a buddy that needs a liquor license, like Pete's Fresh Market. Fear Ready brought that wonderful grocery store to the west side. He reached an agreement with the community not to allow Pete's to sell liquor because there's a church 75 feet behind the Pete's Fresh Market, so it's illegal. You can't have a liquor license. Walter Burnett granted them a liquor license against full community opposition. So there's a lot of examples where Walter just does what he's told, whether it's from Alderman Burke, Mayor Emanuel, Mayor Daley. And if you're an alderman, you're supposed to represent your community. And voting 100% of the time with the mayor, I think I'm challenged to believe he's represented his community with always bowing down and voting with the mayor.
Wow. Mr. Washington,
Yes, sir.
I can't help but to go back because you're an amazing story. You're a courageous man to be a police officer and a minister. It doesn't take a lot of courage to give your life to God. Mm-hmm. But to be able to have both of those titles and to work in the community that you work in, how do you get past the apathy that's in that community on the west side?
Because I was able to, in the 15 years being a Chicago police officer, I was able to watch several people take their last breath, get into the scene of a crime where someone was either shot or stabbed, and they were on their way and making a transition to go to heaven. It took a lot out of me, but the God in me kept me focused. When I was running for Alderman in 2011, my first night back to work off a weekend, a young man was killed on my beat. I got to the scene of the crime, and he was just taking his last breath. I couldn't make it out because he was shot in the face. And before I knew it, I just started praying over him and started covering his body and his transition over to God. I did the paperwork correctly. I did everything correctly. We surveilled the scene. I turned it over to the detectives. My partner and I, we followed the ambulance to the hospital and got to the hospital. They pronounced him dead. I still couldn't make him out, and I felt something heavy. And as we were traveling, my partner and I, as we were traveling back to the station, I got a phone call from my wife, and she was hysterical. She was like, "Sweetheart, Tony was just killed." And I was like, "Wow, I just got through handling a homicide. Now you're telling me that my cousin was just killed." Before I made it to the station, I found out that was my cousin. On my beat that I handled. It was breathtaking. Here I am running for public office. Here I am, a Chicago police officer. Here I am, a pastor, and I don't know how to react at this time. I just handled a scene where my flesh and blood was just murdered, and I couldn't make him out because of the scene. And 2 days later, received an email saying, "We hate that you got knocked off the ballot. It's a shame what happened to your cousin, that he died, but your loss."
Wow.
And it took everything in me to stay strong. And I was asking God, why me? Why must I go through this? What is it that you have me to do? I mean, I'm getting ridiculed because I'm running for office. I'm getting ridiculed because I'm a pastor and a police officer, and now I have to endure the fact that my cousin was just murdered on my beat in the midst of all of this.
Wow. Oof. This is, Gabe, are you prepared to go through this type of experience as an alderman, to have people calling you at the midnight hour to tell you that there's just been a shooting? My family can't bury my kin people. Can you help us? Is this what you really, really want to go through?
Yes, I mean, I'm fully prepared. Again, from how my mom raised me, just to really be there for people in need, and to have that, to be able to help and provide and love on people in need. It's really inspired me to seek a life of public office. My heart goes out when I see somebody in need, and I don't sleep. If I know somebody needs my help, I do what I have to do until I feel that I've helped that person the fullest capability I'm able to. And even back doing, the small business lending, I was the top SBA lender each and every year since I've worked there. And it's only because I can't, and my wife doesn't think this is a strong suit, because it's tough for me to separate work and personal life, just because I've seen all the positive things that I've done and I've helped people with. I've seen people turn their lives around. My whole life I've saw my mother really be that sense of hope for people in need. And while I know somebody could use my help and I could send a helping hand, that's what motivates me. God's done wonderful things in my life. He's really helped me turn around some issues I've had personally. I've seen my prayers for my mom been answered, both for me individually and just through her ministries. And that's what motivates me, is life's tough, and there's a lot of people that don't have someone to turn to or someone to talk to, and that's what compels me. That's what keeps me motivated. It's not the best thing when I was going door to door petitioning, because I've got advisors that have been involved in politics for a long time. They're like, all right, you got to move every 2 minutes. But I can't. I mean, when I'm sitting there talking to somebody, I'm there 20, 30 minutes as long as they need me to, which isn't how a career politician does it. But I don't want to be a career politician. I want to be somebody that's looked upon to help people in need. And, I'm not going to be the career politician and do things by the book. I'm going to do things to, what really helps, and whatever somebody has a need for, I'm going to do whatever I need to help that person out. And it might not be textbook style of politics, but we've seen what these career politicians have done to our city. And I don't want to ever be anything like that.
Wow. Mr. Washington.
Yes, sir.
Wow. I'm moved by not only your dedication, but I fear for you, actually, because I fear in so much as you could easily pack your stuff up and move to Florida. You've worked for the police department. And God can use you in Florida too.
Right.
He don't necessarily have to use you on the west side.
Well,
but he's given you the assignment to stay there. Once you're elected alderman, what will be different?
The entire City Hall, because now City Hall is without spiritual guidance.
Wow.
I walk through just on my own accord, and I have a great hesitation. You know, God give you a spirit of discernment. When you're in a place and you don't feel his presence, it's heavy. And he does that to let you know it's your job to bring spirituality into this dark place. It's your job to turn on the light in this place. And when he has given me that charge, I'm ready to take it, man. So when I'm elected in February, the very first thing I'm going to do is walk around to each room in that building and anoint it.
Wow.
Amen. I'll be there with you.
And I appreciate that, man.
That's great.
Because he says when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name,
right.
he's in the midst of it. And I'm bold enough, and I'll stand firm on that when I do take office, I'm going to send God through every piece and every brick and every pavement in City Hall.
I sense
Amen.
you guys know each other.
Well, we've met a couple of times, and the first time we met, we just had that spiritual connection. I mean, we met. It was actually over the summer, and I mean, Roger has a very compelling story, as you alluded to. Chicago police officer, a pastor. And when he told me that mix, I mean, I felt the anointing on this man. You know, I was raised in a very strong Christian home where my mom was a reverend, and I've got that sense of discernment too. And I mean, this is a holy man of Christ, and I just felt a natural connection with him right away. I love, you know, being able to bring the ministry on the streets as a police officer. I mean, that's powerful stuff. And this city needs more godly leaders in it.
Wow. That's not an indictment of the present leadership, is it?
You can make what you will with it.
You seem to know this man.
Yeah, Bud Billiken parade.
You were at the Bud Billiken parade. That's
Yeah.
the Black people parade.
Yeah, we right. And it was so unique. I attended the Bud Billiken parade all my life, but this was a time now to attend as a leader, and we were introduced, and before you knew it, we bonded on a level that God can only allow his people to bond on, no matter the race, no matter the creed, no matter the sexuality. It's just that God, men were put in the same place at the same time, and we were both on the same page. And I've adopted him as my brother.
Wow.
Not because we're both politicians, not because we're both educated, but on the same accord that we are men of faith, and we practice faith and we live by faith.
Wow.
And I whatever he goes through, I would always have his back. Wow. I'm not looking to judge, because I don't want to be judged myself. But when you stand firm on the faith of God, you have my attention. So the 27th ward, if anyone is against Gabe, they're against me.
Wow.
Because I am a firm believer and I stand on the faith of God. And when God moves, I have to move with God.
You know, Gabe, what I did, and I shouldn't have done it, I made a joke about the Bud Billiken parade and about the racial divide that this city have. And I made it out of a joke, and I should not have. But the racial divide is very serious in this city.
It is.
What can you as an alderman do about it?
We got to bring communities together. What's been very frustrating for what I've learned is the 27th ward has been racially segregated intentionally. I've been to many community meetings hosted by Walter Burnett in the West Loop, and he opens them up with, you guys are so blessed to be here in the east side of the ward. The west side, it's very dangerous. It's no place you'd ever want to bring your business. And I've sat through this before I had any political inspirations at all. I always thought it was a bit strange, because common sense to me, if an area needs economic development, and you're with a room full of business owners, I would think you would encourage these business owners to look on the west side or look in some of the areas that need economic development. So as I've been going door to door and I've been talking with folks, a lot of people say the same thing, that the current alderman encourage people just to stay in their own piece of the community. And the more I've done research on this and the more I've talked with people, this is part of machine politics. And this goes back to the former mayor. This is just politics in general. You keep people segregated. You keep the oppressed oppressed. I mean, it's criminal, but this is that's the politics that's gone on in the 27th Ward. So the East Side communities never interacted with the West Side community. And a lot of that's been because the current leadership has talked against it and really has scared people on the East Side to even go to the West Side. So right away, what I did is I started going to the West Side, and these are lovely, lovely people. My office is there. I leave my doors open, I go in and out, and my wife goes there by herself. I mean, we've created this sense of fear for no reason. Wow. And the only thing I can come up with, and with talking to other people, it's because this is machine politics. You keep people segregated, you keep oppressed, and it's got to come to an end. I mean, we need, and you're right, there's a tremendous amount of racial segregation, and there shouldn't be. I mean, we're all community. We all need to be there for each other. We all need to love each other. We all need to mentor each other. And it's bothersome. And I feel I'm really comfortable with it just because I've grown up. I grew up in an African-American church. My mom was a chaplain at an African-American church. So, race, I don't look at people as black or white. I mean, I look at everyone as people. I love everyone equally. And I'm not, I go to the west side or the east side or the north side or the south side. That doesn't bother me. I mean, and again, I think a lot of it's, if you're a man of faith and God's got a mission for you, then you don't get caught up with the news and politicians trying to keep areas segregated. When you have God on your side, no one can be against you. That's kind of always been my philosophy, one that my mom's instilled in me. And it's been frustrating and heartbreaking to see that this divide has been politically motivated.
Wow. Mr. Washington, let me ask you something. Let's say, hypothetically, looking into the future, a few weeks from now, which is election day, February 24th.
Yes.
And you just got elected alderman. And, of course, I envision that the mayor will probably want to meet the new aldermen.
Yes.
So you and the mayor is having coffee in the fifth floor office. Mm-hmm. What's the conversation like?
How are you? My name is Roger Washington. This is truly my stance in my life is that I am a firm believer in God and what God allows me to do. God didn't bring me here to listen to one side. He placed me here to adhere to both sides. And my job as an alderman, mayor, is to stand firmly on the beliefs of my community. I'm solely here to be a liaison and an advocate for the 24th Ward. So in due respect, Mayor, I would love to keep this on a professional level, knowing that I'm not here to be a rubber stamp. I'm not here to be a yes man. I'm here to solely look out for the community that I intend on spending the rest of my life in.
So you're not alleging that men and women who have been aldermen before you were yes persons. I'm not trying.
Oh no. I'm just saying. This is my stance on it.
Oh, okay.
I do have an opinion. Clear it up a little bit. Yeah, clear it up. I have my own opinion.
That's a fair assumption, though.
Right? No.
Let me ask you, Kate. You just got elected, and for some reason, you want the mayor to come out to you, and obviously, the mayor don't have a problem with it. And Mr. Mayor comes into your office, and what is the conversation about?
My brother Roger basically stole all the things I would say. I mean, I'm doing this. I'm an independent spokesman for my community, and I'm not going to cave in and get pushed around. Neither is my community. 27th Ward's been pushed around enough by the current mayor, the previous mayor, and I could be bullheaded, and when I see a community or groups getting pushed around by big money interests or a mayor or large corporations, I have zero tolerance for it. So as long as we could have that understanding from the get-go, we're going to have a great relationship. If you think that you're going to come into the community and do stuff that the community is opposed to for a political agenda, we're going to have major issues that are going to be, made public, major issues that a lot of the rubber stamp aldermen, and this is just reading from the papers, a lot of them try to justify why they vote 100% of the time with the mayor, which I don't think's justifiable. But the common response is, well, behind closed doors, I try to advocate for what I want. That's not effective. You let everyone know what you stand for up front. I mean, you're representing a community. They have a right to know what you're saying to the mayor and what you're saying and speaking on the community's behalf. So my message is very clear. As long as you respect the community, we're going to get along fantastic. If you think you're going to bully the community around, we're going to have major issues, and they're not going to be just behind closed doors.
You know, we've used this time so far to find out who you gentlemen are. Let's use the last part of the show that we have to talk about Pacifics. What is one of the most specific, what is a Pacific program that now that you're the alderman that you would like to see accomplish? Now that you're the alderman, something that people can put their fingers on and say that this is something that is dear to his heart. He's going to see it through till the end. What would be that one program?
Just my heart has been youth and youth ministry for years. In 2011, my platform was simply let's listen to the youth. Let's be there for the youth. Let's create different alternatives for the youth. The following year, Chicago led in the most shootings involving young people and the most deaths involving young people. In the 24th Ward, I want every church to be on the same accord, to house and to implement programs for our young people, because the 24th Ward has a gate, has a spiritual covering. There's over 1,000 churches in the 24th Ward. And if each church can have a program that allow the children from their neighborhoods to have an after-school program, tutoring sessions, sports programs, something to keep them off the streets and keep them involved and engaged, there will be a lot of negativity dispersed. So I want to be the one that stand boldly and advocate that every church in the ward do something to house those young people and keep them engaged in a positive manner.
Now, I want to come back, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, and I want to be totally respectful to the Chicago Police Department and to this city, because policing is a serious occupation, and you can't have a society without policemen. Mm-hmm. What would be the one thing, if you could change the Chicago Police Department, what is the one thing that you would change?
To do more screening. The screening series, when I came through in '99, I don't think it was severe enough to find out actually the total background of a person that wants to be a Chicago police officer. I'm a firm believer that if you're to police a city, that you will have to know how that city is ran, and you will have to be from that city, because every city is different. And listen to me clearly now. There are a lot of police officers in Chicago that weren't born and raised in Chicago. So how can I go to Kentucky and be an effective police in Kentucky if I don't know the Kentucky culture, or the Kentucky history, or the Kentucky streets, or how youth engage in Kentucky? So I think that we should do a more thorough investigation, background investigation, and psych on those who are willing to be Chicago police officers.
Gabe, your first day, you made it. You raised your right hand, and now you want to, the first 100 days, you want to prove that they'd made the right choice. And what is that one thing that you're gonna put all the marbles and you're gonna put all the chips on to hang
First
your
and
hat on?
foremost, there's a lot of key issues I would focus on, but first and foremost would definitely have to be a sustainable economic development plan and job training and job growth. Again, it's devastating to see the lack of opportunities, especially on the west side. And with kids and youth, when they don't, and even parents, when they don't have a job to be able to earn, a good living, that's when people are more susceptible to doing illegal things, to being on the streets, to the hustling. If everyone has a job or everyone has hope and an opportunity, that's going to help curb the violence in Chicago and the crime in Chicago naturally. If people are working a full-time job and they have hope and inspiration, then that's going to help clean up the violence, and especially on the west side. I mean, it breaks my heart to see how neglected that community's been for so long.
Wow. That
there's a lot of things that need to be worked on, but I mean, my heart just really goes out to the lack of opportunity on the west side. So that would be my first and primary focus.
Economic development. Mr. Washington, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to look into that camera. I want you to take a minute.
With this one here?
Yeah, and I want you to tell the voter why they should vote for you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roger L. Washington. I'm the next 24th Ward Alderman, and I truly believe in my heart that you should vote for me because this has been licensed and ordained by God to make a move and to stand firm on his belief that Chicago will be a better place, and especially the 24th Ward, if we allow God's vision to come to pass. And God has given me that vision, and I have wrote it and I made it plain that I will continue to carry out the work of God's kingdom.
Wow.